Hello everyone and welcome to Biblical Prepping. I'm Judith Garten and this is the prepper portion. I have just a few minutes to whip up something really quick I wanted to show you, and then I have to make brunch. So this is a recipe that my kids grew up knowing as cow pies. I will include the recipe in the description below, as well as post it on our website in the upcoming days. I have a few recipes I have to get over there, so this will be one. Some might know it as oatmeal fudgies, no-bake cookies, things like that, but we always call them cow pies. Don't ask, I won't explain. So the recipe is really simple as a food storage recipe. When you're running low on things or you need things to entertain the kids with, give them some kind of a treat, and you just want something that has some nutrition in it, I will tell you it is not nutritional in any way, but it does have some nutrition. You've got the protein of your peanut butter. You also have milk and oatmeal in it, as well as raisins. Now, I'm using this as a real good food storage example of what you can do with products that you have in your pantry at all times. For example, there's cocoa, there's milk, there's sugar, there's butter. Now you may not have butter, but you can actually use ghee in this as well. Oatmeal, and you can use either the regular oatmeal, which I prefer, or the old-fashioned one, or you can use instant oatmeal. You know, the just the standard oatmeal. You don't want to use the little packets of cinnamon, brown sugar, things like that. And of course we use natural peanut butter, so that's there. 100% vanilla extract, pure. And the raisins actually that I'm going to be using today in these are raisins that I started fermenting as raisin vinegar, which is in the cupboard and almost ready to rock and roll, and I can show you that in a few days, probably sometime next week. This particular recipe fits great into rotate, rotate, rotate. Why does it fit into rotate, rotate, rotate? Let's say you're using powdered milk and you need to get something, you know, you need to start utilizing that powdered milk so that it doesn't reach its expiration past the use by date. Remember, your best by date is not always your expiration date. Let's say you're running your ghee or your butter. Now there are people who also can butter, and I understand that, so you could use that as well. Any of these products that are in your pantry and you need to utilize because they're reaching their expiration date, you can add to this recipe. I might even consider it at the end. We'll see how it goes. If it's soft enough, I might throw in some walnuts as well. Now, because I'm using the raisins that I used to start my raisin vinegar, I'm also fitting into waste not, want not. Why should I throw away 3 cups of raisins when I could use them in other things? I still have a little bit of those left over. I'll put back in the freezer, and I might use those in some muffins coming up. Who knows? We'll see. So let's get started. This one is simple. The first thing you want to do is turn your burner on to medium low. I'm going to start it off at medium. Then you want to add your milk. And believe it or not, I'm actually using food storage milk, but it's not powdered milk. A few years ago we had an ice storm. One of the ways that you can combat a situation where you lose power is by taking and putting frozen bottles of water in your freezer. And we did. Worked great. It helped keep the freezer cold for the 3, 4, 5 days we were without power, and we only lost a few bags of frozen vegetables because of everything that was frozen in there and the frozen water jugs. However, not long after that, a couple years, we had an incident where we were actually stuck here in the house we left once in 7 or 8 weeks. We were actually able to the road was thawed out enough one day that we ran to town and got our mail. We now have chains so that we can get out when we need to, but that was a fun time too. My neighbor was so sweet. She picked up my Kroger orders for me, and she would bring our groceries home to us. So that's how we got our groceries. But in the meantime, we were actually without milk that first couple of weeks because we thought, well, don't worry about it. We could just either use the powdered, which doesn't taste great in your coffee, I will say. It could take some getting used to. Or we'll just do without. So we did without for a while, and then she contacted us and said, could I pick up groceries for you? And boy, It was such a relief. Since then, the water in the freezer has actually turned into milk. I try to keep 6 gallons of milk at any given time in the freezer on the top shelf. That way I can switch it into the small freezer if I need to, if we have a power outage, or I can just use it. Like today, we're just 2 or 3 days away from a grocery run, and I went through the milk a little bit faster than I anticipated from last week's. So I pulled one out of the freezer a couple days ago when I saw it was getting low, and that's what we're using today. So food storage, utilizing my food storage. So we also want to add to this, as it's heating up a little bit, the sugar, and keep the recipe away from the burner. Always a wise idea. My butter, which doesn't want to stick to its wrapper. Now, a lot of you know that I really like my Pampered Chef products, so today we're having some fun with a couple of different ones. I have the small or the medium spatula here, not the small one, and I am using it. It is silicone. It is sealed nicely. Gunk doesn't get in here, so I'm using that one. I'm also using the other one, the large one, for the peanut butter. Let me wipe the butter off my recipe card. There we go. All right, and we've got that in there, and it's heating up nicely, and we need to mix in the cocoa. I am using the large sauce whisk on this because it will get into all the nooks and crannies of my sauce pot. It looks like this, covered in cocoa. Plus, it will break up all of the hard lumps that sometimes appear in your cocoa. Now, the reason why I'm using a couple of different items is really simple, because the cocoa has powdered the outer edge of the pan, and so I'm going to need to scrape that down, get it into the pot. So what we have added so far is 1/2 cup of milk. Oh, I forgot to tell you what I used for that. My little Pampered Chef glass bowls. These have perfect measurements on the outside here, and that's what I used for the milk. I measured 1/2 cup of milk. This is terrible. It's 2 cups of sugar, and I'm not a sugar person, so these are going to be super sweet. They'll last a while. 1/3 of a cup of cocoa, and 1 whole stick of butter. It's been a while since I've made these, so let's read the instructions. So we added those to the pan, and we heat that over medium. It says medium heat. I go a little bit lower because our stove can sometimes run hot. And you want to bring it to a boil, stirring constantly while it's heating. When mixture begins to boil, stop stirring and continue to boil for 1 minute. I did have to turn it up to about medium-high right now. Now that I'm able to mix it all together, I'm continuing to stir. I've not actually used my sauce whisk for anything like a dessert style sauce like this yet, so this is really nice. I like the way the silicone slides across the bottom. It's getting into all the nooks and crannies of the pan, and a little section almost felt like it was starting to scorch when I was using the spatula, but I switched back to this lovely tool and I really like it. I'm gonna have to make a note of that. Not quite to the point of boiling, but we're almost there. Okay, so we have reached our boiling point, and I'm going to start timing now. And I'm going to actually count it with my head because I forgot to bring my phone over here. All right, it has finished boiling. So now we want to turn off the heat as I did, remove it from the heat source. Now you want to throw in your vanilla. I always love that when you put in vanilla, it bubbles up so neat. And then your peanut butter. So that was 1 teaspoon of vanilla. This is 1/2 cup of peanut butter. I'll actually give a plug. I really like the natural creamy peanut butter from Kroger's. It's a really good brand. I like it. It's inexpensive, and it's just 2 ingredients: roasted peanuts and salt. Now you mix that up real nice until the peanut butter is all the way dissolved inside. I want to put in the oatmeal. Now I let the oatmeal sit for a bit, not too long, probably about 2 minutes, and then I stirred in the raisins. I wanted the oatmeal to be able to absorb enough of the chocolate and butter milk concoction so that, because it's regular oats, old-fashioned oats, and that way that is all good to go. I'm going to set it on this cool burner back here for a minute while I clean up the bowls. They are as easy as that. Now I've got them here ready to. Now normally these are very liquidy, but this time they're not, so they're not going to spread out as much as cow pies usually do. I'm going to use a standard scoop. Hopefully they'll spread out a little bit as they go along. Otherwise they're just going to be like cookie shapes rather than flattening out like cow pies did. But I am certain they will still taste just as delicious. They're starting to harden in the pan. And there they are. Cow pies. I got 22 of them out of this batch. You could make them smaller. I do have a smaller scoop, and normally, like I said, they do flatten out a little, so they would be more like that flat cookie right there on the corner. But these ones didn't flatten out because I think I may have waited a little too long. But that's the simple recipe, and as I said, I will post that on biblicalprepping.com, as well as include the link below and put the recipe below as well. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that you'll enjoy this recipe when you go ahead and try it. Blessings and shalom.